give you a ticket for that $10. Today's rally is designed as after the old-time concept of stump speaking and is not a forum nor a debate. Each candidate will be allowed 5 minutes to introduce themselves and lay out their platform. An additional 5 minutes has been allotted for questions, which I will moderate. Time will be strictly observed by our timekeeper, Ms. Phoebe Spangler, in the back of the room. Will be time for both the stump speech and the Q&A session. If the candidates will look toward the back of the atrium where a green light will switch on, show them. Secondary education candidate who has arrived, Mr. Jonathan Loveall, who is also running for District 8. Come on up. Thank you, Jonathan. There you go. 5 minutes. Okay.
I am an elementary school assistant principal. It is 32 miles from the door of my schoolhouse to the Louisiana Department of Education in Baton Rouge. But sometimes it might as well be 1,000 miles. I know firsthand that the people and the bureaucrats at the Louisiana Department of Education oftentimes forget about what is happening at our schools, particularly in our rural communities. I'm the son of a small town Iowa pastor, and I learned from my father that promises matter. You show up for people during the challenging times in their life, and you sit with them, and you advocate for them. In 1974, our state made a constitutional promise to the children and families of our state. Our state promised our children and families a public education system that was humane, a public education system that was just, and a public education system that was designed to promote excellence. Working in the schoolhouse every day, I know firsthand how frequently our Board of Elementary and Secondary Education and our Louisiana Department of Education are not fulfilling that promise for our children and our families in this state. Right now in the state of Louisiana, a third-grade child must spend more time taking a state test to determine if she's mastered the standards of third grade than I had to spend to figure out if I was ready to go to graduate school. That's not humane. We need common sense testing reform in our state. Right now in the state of Louisiana, a teacher in Avoyles Parish in Bunkie, where I just was this morning, with 25 years of experience and a doctoral degree will make less money this year than a brand new teacher in West Feliciana 15, 20 miles down the road. That's not just. We need common sense funding reform for our schools in this state. Right now in the state of Louisiana, our charter schools are too frequently failing to follow state law. When we established charter schools in our state, our legislature said that the overriding consideration of the implementation of charter schools should be the interest of at-risk pupils. But unfortunately, far too many of our state's most vulnerable students, particularly those with disabilities and those who are economically disadvantaged, are not able to access those charter schools. Our state law indicates that charter schools must enroll economically disadvantaged students and students with disabilities at a rate that's 85% of local districts, but far too many of these charter schools in our state egregiously and consistently break the state law, but have their charters renewed. We need common sense charter school accountability in this state. And finally, we know that in school systems that are designed to promote excellence, our students and our children should be able to see teachers and leaders who look like them. And for far too many of our Black students, far too many of our American Indian students, far too many of our Hispanic students, far too many of our Asian students, that's too often not the case. For example, right now in our state, 43% of our public school students are Black, but only 22% of our public school teachers are Black. We need programs and funding in our state to prioritize the increasing diversification of our teachers and our leaders in the state, and that goes up to the highest levels of our Louisiana Department of Education. Whoever is serving on our Board of Elementary and Secondary Education must have a laser-like focus on the interests of our state's most disadvantaged children and families. But it's not enough to have that focus. We must also have a clear idea of the policies and practices that the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education must implement. As a researcher who studies equity and democratic engagement in schools, I know what we need to change in policy to ensure that we can fulfill the promise of public education, the promise of a public education system that is humane, a public education system that is just, and a public education system that is designed to promote excellence, particularly for those children who are far too often left out, our economically disadvantaged children, our children with disabilities, and our children from our rural communities. My name is Jonathan Loveall. I'm a public school teacher running for our Board of Elementary and Secondary Education because promises matter.
Thank you, Mr. Loveall. Let's take some questions. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Loveall? Anybody have a where's our friends over here? Okay. She's trying to practice everybody's name, right? Okay. All right.
Loveall.
Loveall. That's a good name. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm sure that all of the Bessie Board candidates will be around if anyone wants to speak with them.
Yes,
Thank you so much. Miss Greenup, come on over. Well, we're going to wait for, we're going to go on. I'm sorry. Ms. Greenup is running for Secretary of State, and you, ma'am, will have 5 minutes as well, and then we'll take questions, okay? Okay, good to see you again. Same here.
I'm Gwen Collins Greenup, and I am the Democratic endorsed candidate for Louisiana Secretary of State. And I'm running for Secretary of State again because I want to protect our elections and our voting rights, and I believe that I'm a candidate that has the experience, the education, and more importantly, the passion for this office. I have bachelor's and master's degrees in accounting from Liberty University, as well as a Master of Divinity from Liberty University Baptist Theological Seminary. After 20 years of leading positive change in businesses, nonprofits, and government, I decided to go back to Southern University Law Center to graduate with my Juris Doctorate cum laude. And that decision was important for me because after working in court management for so many years and having my own small businesses, I knew that there was more that I could do in our community as well as in the state of Louisiana. And I went back to law school because I wanted to do more. After that, I graduated, and now I'm running for Louisiana Secretary of State again. From class president to CEO to governor, we've been electing candidates that we believe will bring change to our communities, our schools, and our workplaces. Well, with your vote, you can choose a Secretary of State that will work to create positive change in Louisiana by increasing voter participation, by supporting small businesses, by protecting voting rights and elections, and by empowering the next generation to lead, to vote, to start businesses, and to make a difference. But that's going to start with us. We have to work together as Louisianians to ensure that everyone has an equal opportunity to vote. But we also have to level the playing field because there are real barriers to voting in the state of Louisiana. In our urban areas, we have gerrymandering. In our rural areas, we have ballot access problems because homes are spaced out so far that people have to travel long distances to get to the polls. And I know those challenges. I'm from a rural parish, but I've also worked and lived in a large city. So I feel that I'm competent and qualified to protect elections and to expand voter access and registration in our Secretary of State's office. I've also dedicated part of my mission to helping re-enfranchise felon voters. That's important because we want to integrate them back into our system so that they can become good citizens and love their community and their state. And in order to do that, they need to be a part of the decision-making process as well. And I want to be a Secretary of State that's willing to sit at the table with anyone to make sure that we create a better Louisiana for all. And I'm asking for your support and your vote as Louisiana's next Secretary of State. Thank you.
Very well done, but you have to wait, don't go anywhere. Okay, so she has a little more time left even on her presentation, so we're going to use that time for her questions too, because questions seem to go long. And here's our friend here with your first question.
Okay, at the corner of my street, I can see the sign that shows that you guys want to ensure that convicted felons are able to exercise their right to vote, and I think that's commendable. What I have a problem with is the time frame from the time that they exit jail to their ability to be able to vote. 5 years is unreasonable. I think that it should be shorter because they have completely admitted to the government. And I think the moment that they have come out, they should be allowed. So I want to know why 5 years.
Okay, so the 5-year period was actually established by the legislature, and the law was signed into the law by our governor. So that is something that the Secretary of State office does not handle, and the Secretary of State office merely carries out the laws. But what I'd like to do as Secretary of State is work with organizations such as VOTE and other organizations such as the reentry programs to ensure that when people do get out of jail, they're aware of this right. And I also want to work with the Department of Corrections and Probation and Parole and our local court systems to ensure that they're aware of this right. When I was at Baton Rouge City Court, I was a director there, and we put the first DMV inside of a court in the state of Louisiana. And that was so that when people had their driver's licenses suspended, after they paid their traffic violations and their fines, their warrants were recalled right there in my division, and they could go right into the DMV and get their licenses reinstated. That's what we call creating access. And I've done it, and I'm ready to do it again as Secretary of State.
I have a question for you. I have a question as well. You know, one of our big issues in criminal justice is the bail issue, right? People are incarcerated short term or sometimes longer because they can't come up with bail until their court date comes up. What about those people who have not been convicted of a crime, but they're languishing in either local or they moved to some other facility, but they're not able to access the polls? Is there anything we could do for them?
Sure, there is. Actually, a lot of people are not aware of this procedure on the books, which I have advocated that more people are aware that a pretrial inmate, that's what we call them, they're pretrial, meaning they haven't been sentenced. They can actually vote if they request the paper ballot. They can mail that paper ballot back in to the register of voters and vote just like everyone else because they have not been convicted of a felony and they have not lost their voting rights. But that's going to take a Secretary of State and registers of voters offices working together with Department of Corrections, sheriffs, to make sure, and wardens, to make sure that they're aware of this right and that we're working to do everything we can to facilitate that so no one loses their right to vote, but everyone that has the right to vote is able to exercise that right. We don't want to take that away. We want to enhance that. Thank you.
Okay, who's got the microphone? Okay, Peggy, we've got, Don has a question.
So they could get to vote while they waiting sentence in prison?
Absolutely. I can tell you, in East Baton Rouge Parish Prison, at Baton Rouge Prison, the warden there, he facilitated that process when we were in the midterms. He actually made sure they got their ballots, and then if they want to vote, they have to get it back to the register of voters, mail the ballots back in. And like I said, that is called teamwork, us working together to make sure they know those rights and that they can exercise them.
Okay. I have a question, then we're going to get to you. The other question I have was brought to the DPEC actually, and that is there's an issue with some of the write-in, mail-in ballots, that they're not being followed correctly. Okay, that's it? Okay, so for instance, it's written in very, very small type how to do this. So number one, don't seal the envelope. Number two, make sure that it's signed by a second person, okay? So we have learned that many of these ballots have been disqualified because these technicalities have not been followed. So that's one thing, how to address that. But in the jails, how is that accomplished? Who will witness? And it's not a notary witness, it's just a second citizen, signature, right? So how do you work that in the jails? And so you could briefly address both of those. Sure. Did I take your question?
Okay. I'll start off with the jail issue, and then we'll go back to the other issue since we were already on that. In the jails, each warden would facilitate that in their own way. I can't tell you exactly what they're going to decide to do. I know as a notary, I've gone to jails to notarize things, and they have identification in jail. That where you can identify them and notarize the document, and usually it's one of the corrections officers or guards that can sign as a witness if they're needed. Now, I'm not sure how the wardens will handle that as far as who's the witness, but I know for a fact that they do facilitate pre-trial inmates voting in prisons throughout Louisiana. So that's a matter of cooperation inside of that department, but I think that the Secretary of State has a role in making sure that that's facilitated, on that level. And with the mail-in ballots.
Is there a way to redesign it or something so it's easier to work with?
That's something we can work on. I know sometimes it is challenging because, like for instance, people who have not been committed to a mental facility where they haven't been under an order by a judge to take away their voting rights, they can still vote. And in East Louisiana Parish, where I'm from, that we have the Eastern Mental Hospital over there, and they can vote. And if they have not been taking away their voting rights. But what happens with those ballots, from me working in East Louisiana Parish Clerk's office with elections, when they come in, if the ballots have any type of defect, it is at the discretion of the clerk of court and the election staff that's in there when we were reading those ballots to determine if that ballot could go through. Sometimes the ballot can be torn and it can't be read by the machine. That's where you have to make the decision on whether or not that is a legitimate ballot. If it has a distinguishing mark on it, any type of mark that would look like maybe, it's trying to signal that you're voting for a certain person or something. They can't use that ballot because it's not a valid ballot. So it's more voter education is what I want to do across the state of Louisiana. That's why I'm a very active Secretary of State candidate, because everything that I'm doing now, I'm going to do when I get into office.
All right, let's take one more quick question, not like me, quick.
Okay, no, but the part about the ballots,
Yes.
the mail-in ballots, that word discretion of the clerk of court. The clerk of court, some of them are bought or are favored persons, and they'll throw away the ballots, whether they're valid or not valid. So that particular attention should be given to that process once you're in. Once you're in, fraud and abuse, education, not just in the nursing homes should you go, not just in facilities, but you should have an ongoing for fraud and abuse awareness program throughout your parishes, throughout the state, because that's very, very important. It's just given in certain areas.
Good.
So I can answer to that. Having that experience, actually handling the paper ballots in elections, I can detect the fraud myself. I do understand that that does go on, but those ballots are placed into a brown envelope and sent right back with the cartridges to the Secretary of State's office, and they can audit those when they get in. And I have an accounting background. We will be doing audits on elections. We're trying to get voting machines where we can do post-election audits, because they'll have a paper trail where we can determine that the vote that you cast is the one that's counted. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming back. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Greenup. Okay, we're going to Oscar Omar Dantzler, candidate for governor, to join us on the dais here.
Good evening.
Good evening. You have 5
Good to
minutes,
be
sir,
here.
okay? And then we'll
Yes, ma'am.
take questions, okay?
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Good evening, Lafayette and other residents. I'd like to say that I'm Dr. Oscar Omar Dantzler Jr., and I'm running for the state of Louisiana governor, and I'm asking you all for your support and endorsement to help me move the state of Louisiana into a better future. I'm a local down-to-earth person, high school graduate, graduated from Lawton School, Private Investigation Criminology, received an associate, criminal justice, art and biblical study. I received doctorate degree in theology, graduated from Homeland Security, graduated from the Police Academy. I served also as a police officer, served as a deputy marshal, served as a private investigator, served as executive protective agent. I also have several small business that I manage, my own Bells Bumping Company, security guard company, lawn service company, and a 26-year-old veteran in the school system. I also belong to various groups, member of the NEA, National Education Association, member of the Louisiana Education Association, member of the NAACP, member of the Magnolia Peace Office, member of the National Rifle Association, Louisiana State Police membership. I also teaches home farm safety, Louisiana State Police, farm instructor, Mississippi State Police farm instructor, teach Louisiana State Concealed Weapon. And I'm running to try to bring a better movement for the future of our state. I am pro-choice. I'm pro-choice. I don't think no governor or no individual should be able to impose in violation of a female human right. They say federal constitutional right. So I'm pro-choice. I'm for reforming our education system, our justice system, our health care. I think that our police officer should get a pay raise. Our teachers should get pay raises. I think our janitors, the whole staff that make up the school system should get a decent salary. I think that our medical staff should get pay raises. And not only that, I think these jobs that we need up minimum wage. I want to make sure that our senior citizens and our veterans are not left behind. I also want to work on term limit. I don't think that someone should be able to stay in an elected position for life. If the president of the United States and the governor can only serve 2 terms, why not every other elected position? I think we need new people, new motivations, new ideas. Also, some of my goals, I want to talk about pay raise increases on jobs, especially our young people today. College tuition, that's real high. And I want to see what I can do as the governor to minimize our room and board, the cost of living for our young people today. They're our future. And our secondary high school, I want to look at when you graduate from high school, bring in a secondary continuing education. Because every child is not college material. So when you graduate from high school, they have at least 4 years of automotive, woodwork, so they can get a job anywhere and study on the street trying to sell drugs, etc. Also, I want to look at our roadways. I want to see grants. There's grants out there. I want to write any and all grant that's possible for hurricane relief, emergency situation. It's there. And the governor is the chief executive, the chief officer. He can write and bring into place and focus whatever's not being put. In other words, whatever we need, the vision to bring things in focus that's not there, the government can recommend it. And as your next governor, I will do everything in my power. I want to have an open door policy where people can come in and talk to me. I want to work with committees out there, because I need eyes out there to help build our community, you know. And look at our justice system. Our justice system is kind of sucks. I want to make sure this brutality is not we're going to be no longer tolerated. Our loved ones being shot down, I want to make sure that they be held accountability. And the justice system, I don't know if y'all are aware, it takes about $31,000 to $60,000 a year to host an inmate. Now, non-violent offender, what can we do that we can put them back in society, get them a job, let them work off the debt? That money can go back into our school system, pay raises increase, etc. I thank you all so much. Align me. It's great to be in Lafayette. I need your support. Help me move the state of Louisiana into a better future.
Don't go anywhere, though. You're going to take some questions, okay? All right, do we have any questions for Mr. Okay, here we go. Who's got our microphone? Come over here, Peggy.
Thank you. I appreciate what you're explaining. But my question has to do with exit strategy. And what I mean by that, I live on the north side, got all this private buildings, all this closed companies who are opening new businesses in Louisiana, even the other buildings. I want to know what type of exit strategy you could build into legislation that would require them to remove them. See, they took the money on the front end, come in here, so that we need to have built in a policy where if they do something leave, see, they crippled our community. What are they going to do? Keep them moving and sustaining. We need an exit strategy built in to.
Well, first I want to say that I like to, once I get in office, I can look at a lot of the local policies on the local level. It starts there, your city council and your parish. That's where it starts at. I don't know what has been adopted. Sometimes they adopt policy you may not know about or aren't, because a lot of people don't attend these meetings. So once I get in office, then I can look at a lot of those situations and try to address. Now, I am also for small businesses. I want to do whatever is possible. If someone have a vision and want to try to open up a small business, I want our office to be able to, in other words, assist them in any way. Now, on top of that, not only just the small businesses, I want to work with the local bankers. Whatever the bankers, in other words, the bankers is our main priority right here. We should be able to go to our local bank. We bank with these people. And the small business owners, they should be able to help us to start a small business in our own town. It's something wrong with it. I want to do everything in my power.
My question is not about small business. My question is about the fact that Walmart put 391 people out of work and opened a Walmart down the road simply because that Walmart was not financially sustainable and it was losing money. So they forced everybody to have to go to Ambassador Castle, Pinhook, and Karen Grove, and they put all those people in my neighborhood out of work. And no one stood for that.
Well, like I said, I'm for more jobs opportunity. I'm number one. So I want to do whatever I can do. Like I say, I'm not in office, But these big businesses, we need to start holding them accountability. Okay? We need to start holding them accountability. Okay? I'm for more job opportunity off the bat. That's why I was looking into reforming our justice system. That's one issue, to bring in more revenue, to open up more jobs opportunity.
How you doing?
All right, how you doing?
Good, good. You talked about giving teachers, doctors, pay raises. Where the money will come from?
Well, like I addressed earlier, one issue will, our non-violence, arrested inmates. Why spend $55,000 on a year hosting a non-violent inmate when he or she could be out working their death out? Okay, that money right there, the $55,000, that's for one inmate. Bring that back into our system that can get pay raises, open up more job opportunity. Not only just for our local, but what about our reformers? Our reformers is in need right now. So in other words, a lot of that issue would bring forth about reforming our justice system. And not only that, bills have been passed already for the marijuana, okay? My also goal is, I want to pass and legalize marijuana for personal and recreation. That would also bring in more revenue for our state and our farmers. I want to suspend taxes on for our grocery tax.
So you wouldn't have to raise taxes to get these pay raises?
No, sir. I'm suspending taxes. I'm not for pay raises.
Anybody else have a quick question? Okay, I want to welcome, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Okay,
Pleased to be
good.
here. Thank you. Thank you all, Lafayette.
And I just want to say one thing. I work in Jackson with us. Oh, he's been waiting so patiently. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Jackson, I'm sorry. 1 second, 1 minute. Go ahead. Okay, Mr. Jackson, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to come on. We're having trouble with the videotape. Mr. Jackson is running for Attorney General. And you've been waiting so patiently, sir. That's good. Okay, 5 minutes and then we'll take questions, okay? Okay.
Good morning. It's a great day to be in Lafayette, isn't it? Look, y'all may not know this, but I am chairman of the Iberville Parish DPEC. I believe we can build our party back by building our DPECs back. I like what y'all are doing. You know, I don't like the turnout. I'm looking into the audience and I don't see any youngsters out there. You understand? I don't see any real old people. But I really believe, as important as this election is, it ought to be crowded. Okay? I don't know how we make that happen. We got to keep plugging. Let me just tell y'all a few things about myself. I ran for this seat 4 years ago. Jeff Landry used to be my law clerk. People need to understand what the Attorney General does. Under our Constitution, as he sees fit, so that means he's got a lot of discretion. As he sees fit, the Attorney General is vested with the authority to institute any litigation he sees fit, to intervene in any litigation that he sees fit, if he believes it's necessary to assert or protect any right or interest of the state. I want all of you who are here, you're the ones in this parish, you're the only ones here right now. So I know you're interested in this. I want you to answer this question. Show of hands. How many of you believe that Jeff Landry has used his discretion wisely with regard to the legal matters that he's involved the state in? If you believe he's done that well, Jeff Landry is your man. If you believe, like I believe, that he has been an absolute failure with regard to protecting and inserting himself into the things that we care about, then it's time for a change. Now, I've been a lawyer now for almost 30 years. I've worked in major law firms. I've supervised guys that are now heads of several of the major law firms. I've worked with the lady who's now president of the American Bar Association. When I really get my campaign going, and I know y'all say it was 6 weeks if you hadn't already got it going. Look, David had to get close to Goliath. I've not made a lot of noise yet. But as opposed to last time, this time, I really believe I got people with me because Jeff has a record. And you can look at that record. But then by the same token, if you know any good lawyers, particularly in my field, okay, particularly in the oil and gas, particularly when it comes to protecting our interests and our rights in the environment, particularly when it comes to fairness, I believe you'll see that Ike Jackson is what's needed. Now, here's the thing, guys. A lot of you, just like me, are parents and grandparents. Y'all see where the rhetoric and the noise and the absolute ridiculous position that this Republican Party has taken us, not just at the state level, but at the national level. Guys, it's a dangerous time. I believe we got to get serious. And in Louisiana, we need an attorney general who has our interests above partisan, sheer partisan politics at stake. I'm your man for that. I need your help. I appreciate y'all being here. I have many other things to do today and over the next week. I need help. I need motivated people. And the Democrats are not motivated right now because, again, in my race for the second really most powerful position in the state, there's only two choices. You're satisfied or you want to change. I promise you I'll do my best and I will never turn my back on the people of the state of Louisiana for sheer partisan politics. Thank you. I can take one or two.
Okay. Yes. Do we have any questions for Mr. Jackson? He doesn't have a whole lot of time, but does anybody have something quick he'd like answered? Okay.
Thank you guys so much. I love y'all. Keep going, okay? Help build this state back. Do it at the local level. That's what we got to do. That's what we got to do.
I think with the incumbent in there, I think your message was pretty well taken. So. Okay, we're going to ask Mr. Derek Edwards, who's running for state treasurer. He's going to come up here and address you, and then take just a couple of questions afterward.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. My name is Derek Edwards, and I am the most qualified candidate running for Louisiana State Treasurer. To briefly tell you about myself, and you can also go to my website, www.votederekedwards.com. I'm originally from New Orleans. I live in Jefferson Parish. I suffered a high school football injury my senior year in high school during the game. It was almost 30 years ago, 2 days from today, September 9th, 1989. And thank God for my mother, retired school teacher, truly a blessing. Stood by me, made sure, single parent, raised myself and my two brothers. I finished high school on top of my class, went on to receive my bachelor and master's in accounting from Tulane University, law degree from Loyola, practicing attorney in New Orleans. I'm the only qualified candidate running for Louisiana State Treasurer. The current treasurer, John, only has a degree in criminal justice and is managing and overseeing Louisiana's $29 billion budget. He's not qualified at all. I'm endorsed by the Democratic Party, the AFL-CIO statewide, U.S. Congressman Cedric Richmond, and others. As your next state treasurer, I will make sure that you know exactly what's going on in the state treasurer's office with accountability and transparency. I will provide you with a quarterly report so you know exactly how your tax dollars are being spent. I will also let you know what is taking place in the state treasurer's office on a regular basis. In addition to that, with unclaimed property, which is at over $850 million, our current state treasurer has given less than 5% of that back to the people of Louisiana. And he has a proposal that some of that money, which is your money, is used for infrastructure. Within my first 4 years when elected, I will bring unclaimed property into the 21st century and return over $800 million back to the people of Louisiana. In addition to that, our bond rating over the last couple of years is at a double A rating. It was at a triple A rating, which means we're paying higher interest than we should. I will address that issue immediately by meeting with Standard & Poor's and other credit rating companies to bring our bond rating back up to a triple A, and I will do whatever it takes to improve the Louisiana Treasurer's Office, to gain your support and trust with integrity and accountability, and improve our financial situation with investments. I ask for your support, your donation, and your vote. Please spread the word because this election is so important. I know there are not a lot of people here today, unfortunately, but keep in mind, when I'm on the road traveling the state, now I hear folks say, my vote is not important. And for those folks that say that, I say, let me tell you why your vote is important. What politicians do is they look at voter precincts. And if they see your voter precinct votes at 25% and another one votes at 85%, they allocate all the funding to the precinct that votes at 85%. And let me tell you what that means. That means that the police are gonna ride around in a precinct that votes at 85%, so it's safer. They're not gonna have blighted houses. The schools and playgrounds are gonna be better, and the streets. So I tell folks, when you don't encourage your neighbors and members of your community and church to vote as well. In addition to that, when you go to my website, votedarrenedwards.com, there's a link you can click on it to register your vote. It takes you straight to the Secretary of State office. It takes you 2 minutes on your cell phone. So let's register, vote, and change Louisiana. Thank you.
All right, do we have any questions for Mr. Edwards? Teresa, who's got the microphone? Can you get Teresa to
Hello, Derek. Could you tell us a little bit about last year and also tell us about your presentation that you made at the Net Roots with Elizabeth Warren? That was great.
Oh, thank you. Elizabeth Warren is one of our presidential candidates. U.S. Senator from Massachusetts. She's doing an excellent job. She came down here and spoke at Dillard University. I would definitely recommend everyone, please go to our website, look at our candidacy. I think she would be an excellent president. In addition to that, I also want to mention that I did run for state treasurer in 2017 when it was an open seat and John Kennedy became U.S. Senator. In that race, with a ground root campaign, I won the primary and lost in a runoff, the general election, by less than 6% statewide. I am by far the most qualified candidate. The current state treasurer spent $1.2 million literally buying that seat, compared to my $29,000. And we still managed to win the primary and came very close to winning the election. I encourage everyone to get out here and vote. Make sure your family members, the members of your community, everyone is doing their part to bring change, positive change to Louisiana. We need the most qualified candidates in office that represent the people of this great state. Now keep in mind, the state treasurer's election is not about blue or red. It's about green. And who's the most qualified candidate to manage and oversee your $29 billion state budget and your tax dollars? I am by far the most qualified candidate, and I ask that you support me, vote for me, and please donate. You can go on my website to donate, voteDerekEvans.com, make a click. Whatever you can donate is much appreciated. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Evans? Okay, well, we appreciate you making the effort to come be with us today. Again, see that you get copies of the video, and good luck.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.